The Forbidden Archive. The Discovery Commander Sarah Chen pressed her gloved hand against the obsidian wall and felt it hum beneath her touch. The structure before her rose from the barren surface of Terminus Prime, like a black tooth jutting from the planet's rocky jaw. Her team of 6 researchers stood behind her, their breath creating small clouds of mist inside their helmets despite the suit's climate control. They had been searching for 3 weeks following fragmentary coordinates found in a derelict probe, and now they stood before something that shouldn't exist. Terminus Prime was supposed to be empty. Every scan, every survey, every probe sent to this lonely world at the edge of the outer rim had reported nothing but dead rock and thin atmosphere. Yet here stood a structure so massive it could be seen from orbit once you knew where to look. The fact that it had remained hidden for so long spoke to technology far beyond anything humanity possessed. Dr. Marcus Webb stepped forward, his scanner chirping excitedly in his hands. His dark eyes were wide with wonder as he examined the readings. "Commander, these materials don't match anything in our database. The molecular structure is impossibly dense. This thing could survive the heat death of the universe and still be standing here." Sarah nodded slowly. She had expected as much. Everything about this mission felt different from the moment they entered the Terminus system. The silence was too complete, the emptiness too perfect. It was as if the entire region of space had been deliberately cleared, like a stage set for an audience that had never arrived. "Lieutenant Patel, what's the radiation reading?" Sarah asked, turning to the team's security officer. Ravi Patel checked his instruments and frowned. "Nothing harmful, but there's definitely energy flowing through this structure." "It's active, Commander. Whatever this place is, it's still running after all this time." Sarah made her decision. They hadn't come this far to turn back now. "Find the entrance. There has to be a way inside." The threshold. It took them 2 hours to locate the entrance, and when they did, it opened for them without any effort. A section of the black wall simply dissolved into mist, revealing a corridor that stretched into darkness. The passage was tall enough for beings 3 times human height, and wide enough that the team could walk 4 abreast with room to spare. Elena Vasquez, the team's linguist and cultural specialist, gasped as lights flickered to life along the corridor walls. The illumination was soft and golden, like late afternoon sunlight filtering through autumn leaves. "It knows we're here," she whispered. "The structure is responding to our presence." They moved forward cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the vast space. The walls were covered with symbols that seemed to shift and change as Sarah looked at them, never quite staying still enough to be properly examined. It made her eyes hurt if she stared too long. The corridor led them deeper into the structure, spiraling downward in a gentle curve. Sarah estimated they had descended at least 1 kilometer when the passage finally opened into a chamber so enormous that their lights couldn't reach the far walls. The team stood at the edge of what appeared to be a vast library or archive, with countless crystalline columns rising from the floor like a forest of glass trees. Marcus approached the nearest column and placed his scanner against its surface. "Commander, these columns are data storage devices. Each one contains more information than every computer in human space combined. There must be millions of them in here." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine despite the comfortable temperature inside her suit. Who built this place? And why? A voice answered her, though no sound was made. The words simply appeared in her mind, clear and precise, speaking in perfect English. "This archive was constructed by the precursors, the first civilization, those who came before all others. You have been expected, children of Earth. Your arrival was foretold in the oldest cycles." The precursor records. The team stood frozen, hands instinctively moving to weapons they couldn't use in this place. Sarah forced herself to remain calm, though her heart hammered in her chest. "Show yourself." "Who are you?" "I am the Keeper, the final guardian of knowledge left behind when the precursors departed this reality. I have waited 4 million years for this moment. For your arrival." Elena stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "Why us? What makes humanity special?" The golden light in the chamber intensified, and suddenly they were surrounded by holographic images. Stars wheeled overhead. Galaxies collided and reformed. Entire civilizations rose and fell in the blink of an eye. Sarah watched, transfixed as the history of the universe unfolded around them. The precursors were the first intelligent species to arise in this galaxy, the Keeper explained. They achieved wonders you cannot imagine. They reshaped worlds, kindled new stars, and pushed the boundaries of reality itself. But with all their power, They possessed one gift that transcended all others. They could see through time, not perfectly, but clearly enough to perceive the patterns of what must come. The images shifted, showing a spiral of light that Sarah recognized as the Milky Way galaxy. A point near the outer edge began to glow with increasing intensity. They saw your world before it existed. They saw your species before the first mammals crawled from the seas. They saw what you would become, and they were afraid. But they were also filled with hope. Ravi's voice was tight with tension. Afraid of what? What did they see? The holographic display changed, showing a world of blue oceans and green continents, orbiting a yellow star, Earth, but the image was overlaid with symbols and equations that pulsed with meaning Sarah couldn't quite grasp. They saw a species born from chaos and violence, a race that emerged from a world unusually hostile and competitive. They saw beings who refused to accept limitations, who would rage against the dying of the light until their last breath. They saw a species that would unite in the face of extinction, yet fight among themselves with devastating creativity. They saw humanity. Marcus was recording everything, his hands shaking slightly as he worked. This is impossible. How could they predict our evolution with such accuracy? They did not predict, the keeper corrected. They observed across time. The precursors existed in a state beyond your current understanding. They saw all moments as one, and in that eternal now, they witnessed the truth that has shaped this galaxy's secret history for eons. The prophecy revealed. Elena moved closer to one of the crystalline columns, reaching out to touch it. The moment her fingers made contact, information flooded into her mind. She staggered, and Sarah caught her before she fell. "What did you see?" Sarah demanded. Elena's eyes were unfocused, filled with tears. "Everything. I saw everything. The prophecy isn't just about us. It's about what we represent. The precursors called us the catalyst species. They believed that humanity's arrival on the galactic stage would force every other civilization to evolve or perish. The Keeper's presence seemed to grow heavier, more substantial. The prophecy was recorded in every major language of every species that would arise after the precursors departed. It was hidden in genetic memory, carved into the foundation of reality itself. Every intelligent species that reaches for the stars eventually discovers fragments of it, and they learn to fear what it foretells. Sarah felt anger rising in her chest. So we're what? Some kind of cosmic boogeyman? A threat that advanced civilizations have been dreading for millions of years? You are not a threat, the Keeper said gently. You are a necessity. The precursors saw that the galaxy would stagnate without you. Advanced civilizations would grow comfortable, complacent. They would stop pushing boundaries, stop taking risks. Innovation would die, and with it the spark that makes life worth living. The holographic display shifted again, showing dozens of alien species, each one beautiful and unique in its own way. Sarah recognized a few from humanity's limited first contacts, but most were completely unknown. These species have all discovered portions of the prophecy, the Keeper continued. Some have embraced it, seeing humanity as the fulfillment of an ancient promise. They believe your arrival will usher in a new golden age of discovery and growth. Others fear you, seeing only the disruption you will cause to their carefully ordered civilizations. Ravi checked his weapon nervously. How many species know about this prophecy? How many are afraid of us? 73 major civilizations have access to substantial portions of the prophecy. Of those, 41 view humanity with fear or hostility. 27 are uncertain, watching and waiting. Only 5 have embraced the prophecy and actively seek contact with your kind. The numbers hit Sarah like a physical blow. Humanity had barely begun to explore the galaxy, had encountered fewer than a dozen alien species in their brief ventures beyond their home system. And already, dozens of civilizations were making decisions about humanity's fate based on ancient prophecies. The hidden warning, Doctor. Wei Lin, the team's quantum physicist who had been silent until now, spoke up. Her voice was quiet but steady. What happened to the precursors? Where did they go? The Keeper's presence seemed to flicker, like a candle flame in a sudden breeze. They transcended. They moved beyond this reality into realms of existence that cannot be described in your language. But before they departed, they left behind one final message, a warning encoded in the deepest layers of this archive. The golden light dimmed and a new image appeared. It was a mathematical equation so complex that Sarah's mind refused to process it fully. But embedded within the numbers and symbols was something else. A message, Elena gasped. It's written in proto-human language patterns. They're using the linguistic structures that would eventually evolve into human speech. This message was meant specifically for us. Translate it, Sarah ordered. Elena worked quickly, her fingers dancing across her portable computer as she fed the data through translation matrices. Minutes passed in tense silence. Finally, she looked up, her face pale. It says, "Children of Soul, you arrive at the appointed hour, but the appointed hour is both dawn and dusk. Your strength will reshape the galaxy, but strength without wisdom breeds only ashes. Beware those who would bind you in chains of prophecy, for destiny is a cage that locks from within. The greatest threat to your future comes not from those who fear you, but from those who would use you. Trust in your nature, but master it. Rise, but remember why you climb. The stars await, but so do the shadows between them." The team stood in silence, absorbing the weight of the warning. Sarah felt a cold certainty settling into her bones. This wasn't just about an ancient prophecy or fearful alien civilizations. This was about something much larger and more dangerous. "Keeper," she said slowly, "who would try to use us?" "What aren't you telling us?" The presence flickered again, weaker this time. "My time grows short. The energy that has sustained me for 4 million years is finally depleting. But know this. The prophecy you have discovered here is incomplete. There are other archives, other repositories of knowledge scattered across the galaxy. Some are controlled by those who would see humanity fulfill the prophecy in ways that serve their own purposes. Others are guarded by those who would see you destroyed before you can rise." The golden light began to fade, and the crystalline columns dimmed one by one. "Take what knowledge you can carry. Share what you have learned. But be cautious about whom you trust. The galaxy has been preparing for your arrival for a very long time, and not all preparations have been made with humanity's best interests at heart." Marcus worked frantically, downloading as much data as his equipment could hold. The others helped, their movements urgent as the archive began to shut down around them. "One last question," Sarah called out to the fading presence. "Why did the precursors want us to rise? What did they see in humanity that made them create this prophecy?" The Keeper's final words echoed through the chamber as the last lights died. They saw a species that would never stop asking why. They saw a people who would rage against entropy itself. They saw hope wearing skin and bone, stubborn enough to laugh at impossibility and brave enough to face the heat death of the universe with defiance in their hearts. They saw what all intelligent life secretly dreams of becoming but lacks the courage to pursue. They saw humanity, and they knew the galaxy would never be the same. The return. The team stumbled out of the archive as dawn broke over Terminus Prime. The black structure behind them was already dissolving, its purpose fulfilled after 4 million years of waiting. Within hours, nothing would remain but smooth rock and the whisper of wind across empty plains. Sarah looked at her team, seeing her own exhaustion and wonder reflected in their faces. They had come seeking knowledge and had found something far more profound. They had discovered that humanity's place in the galaxy had been anticipated for longer than human civilization had existed. As they made their way back to their ship, Elena walked beside Sarah. "What do we do with this information, Commander? How do we tell humanity that half the galaxy fears us because of something we haven't even done yet?" Sarah was quiet for a long moment, watching the alien sun rise over the horizon. "We tell them the truth, that we've been given both a warning and a gift, that we're not alone in the universe, and that our actions from this point forward will determine whether the prophecy becomes a promise or a curse." She paused at the foot of their ship's boarding ramp, turning to look back one last time at the spot where the archive had stood. "And we prepare. Because if even half of what the Keeper told us is true, then humanity is about to face challenges we can't even imagine. But we'll face them the way we've always faced the impossible." "How's that?" Ravi asked. Sarah smiled, a fierce expression that held both determination and hope. "Together, with our eyes open and our spirits unbroken. The precursors saw what we could become. Now it's up to us to prove them right." As their ship lifted off from Terminus Prime, carrying its precious cargo of knowledge and warnings, none of them noticed the small probe that detached from their hull. It was an elegant thing, crafted from materials that bent light around themselves, rendering them invisible to human sensors. The probe activated a quantum communication array and sent a single burst transmission across the galaxy. The message was brief. "The humans have found the forbidden archive. The prophecy has been revealed. Initiate protocol awakening." Across the vast expanse of space, in chambers hidden and strongholds ancient, beings of unimaginable power received the message. Some smiled, some trembled, all prepared for what must come next. The age of humanity was beginning, and the galaxy would indeed never be the same. The gathering storm, the revelation spreads. 3 months had passed since the discovery on Terminus Prime, and the galaxy had changed in ways Sarah Chen could never have predicted. She stood in the observation deck of the Human Alliance flagship Endeavor, watching ships from a dozen different species arrive at the neutral meeting station, designated as Haven's Gate. Some came in friendship, others in barely concealed hostility, but all came because of what her team had discovered. The data from the Forbidden Archive had spread like wildfire through human space the moment they returned. Despite attempts to classify the information, it had leaked within days. Now every human colony, every station, every ship knew the truth. Humanity was not just another species exploring the stars. They were the fulfillment of an ancient prophecy that had shaped galactic civilization for millions of years. Dr. Elena Vasquez joined Sarah at the viewport, clutching a data tablet to her chest. Her eyes were shadowed with exhaustion, but there was an intensity in her expression that hadn't been there before. The diplomatic corps just received responses from 42 different species. 38 are demanding an emergency council session. The others refuse to acknowledge our communications at all. Sarah sighed. Let me guess. The silent ones are among those the Keeper said feared us most. Exactly. And there's something else. Elena handed her the tablet. We've been monitoring comm traffic across known space. There's been a massive surge in military movements, ships gathering, fleets repositioning, defense networks activating. Someone is preparing for war, Sarah. Before Sarah could respond, Marcus Webb rushed into the observation deck, his face flushed with excitement. Commander, you need to see this. We've cracked another layer of the archive data. There's a map, coordinates to locations across the galaxy. The Keeper was right. There are other repositories of knowledge out there, and some of them contain the complete prophecy. Sarah studied the star map Marcus projected from his portable holo emitter. Dozens of points of light scattered across the galactic spiral, each one marking a potential archive location. But 3 points glowed brighter than the others, pulsing with an urgent rhythm. These 3 are different, Marcus explained, zooming in on the brightest markers. The data suggests they're not just archives. They're something the precursors called nexus points, places where the fabric of reality is thin enough to perceive probable futures. If we could reach them, we might be able to see what the precursors actually saw when they made their prophecy. Or we might find traps, Ravi Patel interjected, entering the deck with Lieutenant Commander James Foster, the Endeavor's tactical officer. I've been analyzing the response patterns from the various alien civilizations. The hostile ones are all positioning assets near those exact coordinates. They know about the nexus points, and they're preparing to stop us from reaching them. Sarah felt the weight of command settling heavier on her shoulders. Every decision she made now could shape humanity's future, for generations to come. What's our current military situation? Foster pulled up a tactical display. He was a career officer with 30 years of experience, and his expression was grim. We're outnumbered and outgunned, Commander. The Human Alliance fleet consists of 87 combat-capable vessels. Our intelligence suggests that at least 3 major alien coalitions are forming, each with hundreds of ships. If they decide to act against us collectively, we can't win a direct confrontation. The Council convenes. The emergency council session took place in Haven's Gate's Grand Assembly Hall, a vast chamber designed by the Arxian Concordat centuries ago to host gatherings of multiple species. The architecture was deliberately neutral, with adjustable gravity, atmosphere, and lighting to accommodate different physiological needs. Sarah walked into the hall flanked by Elena and Marcus, with Ravi providing security. The chamber was already filled with representatives from dozens of civilizations. Some wore environment suits, others breathed the standard atmosphere comfortably, and a few existed as energy patterns contained within crystalline matrices. The Arxian ambassador, a being that resembled a mantis made of living crystal, spoke first. Its voice was translated through universal communicators into 100 different languages simultaneously. We gather in unprecedented circumstances. The humans have uncovered knowledge that was meant to remain hidden until the appointed time. They have disrupted the careful balance that has maintained peace in this galaxy for 10,000 cycles. An ambassador from the Keltharian Empire, a reptilian species with iridescent scales, hissed its agreement. The prophecy speaks of upheaval and transformation. The humans bring chaos wherever they go. Already their discovery has destabilized our carefully maintained order. We demand they submit to galactic oversight and cease all attempts to access the remaining archives. Sarah stepped forward to the central platform, her heart pounding but her voice steady. With respect, Ambassador, we didn't seek this prophecy. We were following legitimate scientific research when we discovered the archive, and we refuse to be judged for the fears others have projected onto us based on ancient predictions. You speak of refusal, growled the Keltharian, but you do not have the strength to enforce such defiance. Submit to oversight, or face the consequences of your arrogance. Before Sarah could respond, another voice echoed through the chamber. This one belonged to Ambassador Tyrell of the Luminary Collective, a species of beings composed primarily of organized light and energy. The Luminary were one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy, and their words carried immense weight. The Keltharians speak from fear, not wisdom, Tyrell said, its form pulsing with different colors to emphasize its words. The prophecy was never meant to be a warning against humanity. It was meant to be a challenge to all of us. The precursors foresaw that our civilizations would grow stagnant without external pressure to evolve. The humans are that pressure. They are the catalyst that will force us all to grow or perish. The Luminary would speak in favor of these primitives, spat a representative from the Void Collective, a mysterious species that rarely participated in galactic affairs. But they ignore the danger. The prophecy speaks of humans reshaping the galaxy. What if that reshaping destroys what we have built? Elena stepped forward, her tablet displaying holographic projections from the archive data. The prophecy doesn't speak of destruction. It speaks of transformation. Look at the actual text, not the interpretations that have been passed down through the ages. The precursors saw humanity as a mirror. They believed that how other species react to our presence would reveal their true nature. Those who greet us with friendship will find allies. Those who greet us with hostility will find exactly what they fear. The chamber erupted into heated debate, dozens of species arguing simultaneously in a cacophony of sound that the translators struggled to process. Sarah watched it all, seeing the deep divisions forming. The galaxy was fracturing along ideological lines, and humanity stood at the center of the schism. The hidden players that night. After the council session ended in deadlock, Sarah received an unexpected visitor. She was in her quarters aboard the Endeavor, reviewing tactical data when her security system announced an unscheduled arrival. Ravi was at her door within seconds, weapon drawn. "Stand down, Lieutenant," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "I mean Commander Chen, no harm. I come with information she desperately needs." A figure materialized in the center of Sarah's quarters. It was humanoid in shape but clearly not human. Its skin was a deep purple, covered in intricate patterns that shifted and flowed like liquid. Its eyes were entirely black like wells of infinite depth. "My name is Jirak," the figure said, bowing slightly. "I represent a coalition of species that your people have not yet encountered. We exist in the shadows between the major powers, and we have been waiting for humanity's arrival for a very long time." Sarah kept her hand near her sidearm. "Waiting? You're one of those who want to use us, like the Keeper warned." Jirak's expression was difficult to read, but something like amusement flickered across its features. The Keeper was wise but incomplete in its understanding. "Yes, my people have plans that involve humanity, but our goals align with your own survival. The coalition forming against you is more dangerous than you realize." The alien pulled up a holographic display that showed military formations Sarah's intelligence hadn't detected, massive fleets hidden in the dark spaces between stars, weapons platforms disguised as asteroids, and strange technology that her sensors couldn't properly identify. The Keltharian Empire leads this coalition, but they are pawns of something far older and more dangerous, an organization that calls itself the Eternal Council. They are descendants of a civilization that existed before even the precursors. They have been manipulating galactic affairs for millions of years, always from the shadows. Marcus, who had been listening from the doorway, spoke up. "That's impossible. The precursors were the first advanced civilization. Every record confirms this." "Every record you have access to," Sherrock corrected gently. "The Eternal Council has been erasing their own history for eons." They rule not through direct power but through careful manipulation of prophecy and fate. They helped the precursors craft their vision of humanity's rise, but they twisted it for their own purposes. Sarah's mind raced, trying to process this new information. What purposes? What do they want with us? They want to ensure that humanity fulfills the prophecy in a very specific way. They want you to become the galaxy's enforcers, the species that polices all others and maintains order through superior force. They've been preparing for this moment, grooming humanity's development through subtle interventions throughout your history. That's insane, Ravi said. Are you suggesting they've been manipulating human evolution? Not evolution, but events. Small nudges at critical moments, a piece of technology discovered at just the right time, a war that could have destroyed you prevented at the last second. They've been shepherding your species toward this moment, and now they're ready to reveal themselves and offer you a deal. Elena's eyes widened. What kind of deal? They'll offer to protect humanity from the hostile coalition. They'll provide technology and resources that will make you the dominant military power in the galaxy. In exchange, you'll become their instrument of control. You'll enforce their vision of galactic order, suppressing any species that threatens the status quo they've maintained for millions of years. Sarah felt sick. And if we refuse? Then they'll allow the hostile coalition to destroy you. They've already positioned assets to ensure that happens. The war that's coming was engineered by them. Either way, they maintain control. Either humanity becomes their tool, or humanity is eliminated as a threat to their hidden authority. The truth in the stars. Sarah made a decision that would define everything that followed. We need to reach one of those nexus points. We need to see the complete prophecy for ourselves. Understand what the precursors actually intended, not the corrupted version the Eternal Council has been spreading. Sharrock nodded approvingly. That is wise. But the journey will be dangerous. The nearest nexus point is in the Umbral Sector, a region of space claimed by the Void Collective. They will not allow passage freely. Then we'll have to convince them or fight our way through, Sarah said firmly. Marcus, Elena, start analyzing the data on the nexus point. I want to know everything we can learn before we arrive. Ravi, coordinate with Foster. We'll need an escort fleet, the fastest and most capable ships we have. Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah assembled a task force of 15 ships, including the Endeavor. They were joined by unexpected allies. The Luminari sent 3 of their light ships, vessels that could bend space around themselves for incredible speed. A species called the Drokan, massive beings that lived in the vacuum of space itself, offered to guide them through the dangerous regions of the Umbral Sector. The journey was harrowing. They encountered automated defense systems left by ancient civilizations, navigated through stellar phenomena that defied conventional physics, and evaded pursuit by Keltharian scouts. But finally, after 3 weeks of travel, they arrived at the coordinates the Archive had provided. The nexus point was unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. It appeared as a tear in space itself, a wound in reality through which strange lights pulsed and flickered. Sensors went haywire trying to process what they detected, and several crew members reported feeling an inexplicable pull toward the phenomenon. I'm reading temporal distortions, Marcus reported, his voice tight with a mixture of fear and excitement. Time itself is unstable here. We could be looking at past, present, and future all existing simultaneously in this location. Elena worked frantically at her station, trying to establish a communication protocol with whatever intelligence might exist within the Nexus. The precursors left instructions. There's a way to interface with the Nexus directly, to experience what they experienced when they crafted the prophecy. Who has to do it? Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. Someone human, Elena confirmed. The Nexus is attuned to human consciousness specifically. It's been waiting for one of us to arrive. Sarah didn't hesitate. Prepare the interface. I'll do it. The connection was overwhelming. Sarah felt her consciousness expand beyond her body, beyond the ship, beyond linear time itself. She existed everywhere and everywhen simultaneously, perceiving the universe as the precursors once had. She saw humanity's past unfold in an instant. Every war, every achievement, every moment of triumph and tragedy, compressed into a single eternal now. She saw the Eternal Council's manipulations, subtle touches that had guided human development, but she also saw something they hadn't anticipated. Humanity's defining characteristic wasn't aggression or adaptability, though those traits were present. It was the capacity for choice. Unlike every other species in the galaxy, humans possessed an unusual degree of free will, an ability to defy probability and predetermined paths. The Eternal Council had tried to manipulate humanity, but they had never truly controlled them. The precursors had known this. They had seen that humanity would arrive at a crossroads, a moment when the entire galaxy's future would hang in the balance. They had created the prophecy, not as a prediction but as a test. Would humanity embrace the role that others tried to force upon them, or would they forge their own path? Sarah saw the possible futures branching out before her. In one timeline, humanity accepted the Eternal Council's offer and became enforcers of a stagnant order, powerful but ultimately enslaved. In another, they fought against overwhelming odds and were destroyed, becoming a cautionary tale for future species. But there was a third path, narrow and difficult, where humanity chose something unexpected. She saw humans reaching out to other species, not as conquerors or victims, but as partners. She saw civilizations that had grown complacent being challenged to evolve. She saw the Eternal Council's hidden empire crumbling as their manipulations were exposed. She saw a galaxy transformed not through force but through the power of choice freely made. The vision showed her one final truth. The prophecy's power came not from its accuracy but from belief in it. The Eternal Council had wielded prophecy as a weapon for millions of years, because species across the galaxy accepted the concept of predetermined fate. But humanity's arrival shattered that paradigm. If humans could defy prophecy, then anyone could. Free will could spread like a virus through civilizations that had forgotten they possessed it. The choice Sarah's consciousness snapped back to her body. She gasped, stumbling as Ravi caught her. Around her, the bridge crew stared with concern and anticipation. "What did you see?" Elena asked urgently. Sarah took a deep breath, organizing her thoughts. "I saw the truth. The prophecy isn't a prediction. It's a choice. The precursors knew that showing us a predetermined future would force us to confront the concept of free will. They wanted us to reject the idea of fate itself." She turned to face the view screen, where the nexus point still pulsed with otherworldly energy. The Eternal Council has been using prophecy to control civilizations for millions of years. They make species believe their futures are predetermined, then they position themselves as the architects of that fate. But humanity breaks their system because we inherently reject the concept of predetermined destiny. Marcus shook his head in wonder. So the prophecy about humanity reshaping the galaxy is actually about us destroying the power of prophecy itself. Exactly. And that's why they fear us. Not because we're aggressive or expansionist, but because we represent an idea that threatens their entire method of control. Foster brought up tactical displays. "Commander, we're receiving multiple signals. The hostile coalition has found us. We have less than an hour before they arrive in overwhelming force." Sarah squared her shoulders. "Open a wideband transmission. All frequencies, maximum range. I want every ship, every station, every settlement in this sector to hear what I'm about to say." When the channel opened, Sarah spoke with absolute conviction. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Human Alliance to all civilizations of this galaxy. We have accessed the nexus point and witnessed the true prophecy of the precursors. We know now that we were never meant to be conquerors or enforcers. We were meant to be a reminder." She paused, letting her words carry across the void. "For millions of years you've been told that your futures were written in stone, that prophecy and fate were inescapable. You've been manipulated by those who would use your belief in predetermined destiny to control you. But the truth is simple. You have always had the power to choose your own path. You've just forgotten how to use it. Humanity rejects the prophecy that was written about us. We reject the roles that others have tried to force upon us. We choose our own future, and we invite every species in this galaxy to do the same. The age of predetermined destiny is over. The age of choice begins now." The aftermath, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Ships that had been converging to attack began broadcasting messages of confusion and debate. The carefully orchestrated coalition started to fracture as individual species began questioning their orders and motivations. Jarok appeared on the Endeavor's bridge via hologram, its expression approving. "Well done, Commander Chen. You've just destabilized 10 million years of carefully constructed control. The Eternal Council will be in chaos for decades trying to reassert their authority." "Good," Sarah said firmly. "Let them scramble. We'll use that time to build something new. Not a human empire, but a true alliance of free civilizations." Elena was monitoring communications. Sarah, we're receiving thousands of messages. Species we've never encountered before are asking to meet with us. Some of the neutral parties from the Council are requesting formal alliances. Even a few of the hostile civilizations are reconsidering their positions. Over the following months, the galaxy transformed in ways both subtle and profound. The Eternal Council's hidden existence was exposed by Xerox coalition, sparking revolutions and reforms across dozens of civilizations. The prophecy about humanity became a symbol not of fear, but of liberation from predetermined fate. Humanity established the Accord of Free Worlds, an alliance open to any species that embraced the principles of choice and self-determination. 53 civilizations joined in the first year alone, with more petitioning for membership every day. Sarah stood once again in the observation deck of the Endeavor, watching as ships from across the galaxy gathered for the first true Free Council. Elena joined her, a smile on her face. The precursors would be proud, Elena said softly. They saw what we could become, and they gave us the tools to achieve it. Sarah stood once again in the observation deck of the Endeavor, watching as ships from across the galaxy gathered for the first true Free Council. Elena joined her, a smile on her face. The precursors would be proud, Elena said softly. They saw what we could become, and they gave us the tools to achieve it. Sarah nodded. They saw that the greatest gift they could give the galaxy wasn't technology or knowledge. It was the reminder that we all have the power to write our own stories. She looked out at the assembled fleet, seeing humans and aliens working side by side, united not by prophecy or fear, but by choice. The legend said humanity would rise, but it never said we had to rise alone. We're not fulfilling an ancient prophecy. We're creating a new future, one choice at a time. As the first session of the Accord began, a new chapter in galactic history unfolded. The oldest alien legend had foretold humanity's rise, but the reality was far greater than any prophecy could capture. Because humanity hadn't risen to dominate or enforce, they had risen to remind the galaxy what it meant to be truly free. And in that freedom, all civilizations would find their chance to rise together, unfettered by the chains of predetermined destiny, masters of their own fate at last. The stars had always held possibilities. Now, for the first time in millions of years, those possibilities belonged to everyone.